All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving deep behind the screen to see how an online fantasy world allegedly became the base of operations for a real-life crime syndicate. We've got all the original source material, so let's piece this story together. This one sentence right here, published for anyone to see on a website. This is our rabbit hole. It's such a bold, almost unbelievable thing to say out loud, and it really sets the stage for this whole decade-long saga of alleged cybercrime and intimidation. So to really get what's going on here, first, you gotta understand the world where this all happened. So what exactly is IMVU? Well, it's not just a game. You gotta think of it more like this massive digital universe. It's part social network, part game, and a huge online marketplace, all rolled into one. People spend real money building these really elaborate virtual lives. It's got its own economy, its own culture, and, as we're about to find out, its own criminal underworld. But just imagine, you pour years of your life, and we're talking thousands of real dollars, into building this virtual existence, only to have it all stolen. That's the nightmare scenario some users described in complaints to the Better Business Bureau. Your whole digital life just gone in a flash. And sometimes it's because customer service allegedly just handed over the keys to the wrong person. Okay, so into this chaos, a really powerful group steps up. But here's the big question. Were they the good guys or the bad guys? Well, that's where the story gets really, really messy. And this is the part that is just wild. On one hand, they try to look like these modern-day Robin Hoods, fighting for the little guy against this big, greedy corporation. But then, literally in the same breath, they're bragging about being an organized crime syndicate. I mean, how can you be both? That contradiction is at the very heart of this thing. And, any good syndicate has its chain of command, right? These names here, they're pulled straight from the group's own website and official police complaints. You've got the family Don running the show, his underboss. I mean, they're not exactly hiding it. Okay, so the million-dollar question. How did they allegedly get away with this for so long? Let's get into the real nuts and bolts of how this whole operation supposedly worked. All right, let's talk tools of the trade. One of the biggest weapons in a cybercriminal's arsenal is what's called a hash list. All you need to know is it's basically a treasure chest of stolen emails and passwords from a data breach. If you get your hands on one of these, you have the keys to thousands, maybe millions of accounts. So get this. When one of the main suspects was called out in a chat log for having these lists, he didn't deny it, not even a little. He just casually blows it off as public shit. I mean, the accuser is seeing proof of a massive crime, and the suspect is treating it like he just downloaded a song off the internet. The difference in perspective is, wow. But look, having a bunch of stolen passwords is one thing. The real power, allegedly, came from getting access to something called the Staff API. The best way to think of this is like having a set of master keys to the entire platform. These are the secret, internal tools that basically give developers God mode. And this right here is the biggest twist in the whole accusation. The claim isn't that this was some hacker in a basement breaking in from the outside. No. The allegation is that this was an inside job. They were supposedly using the company's own powerful tools against its own users. The master keys weren't stolen. The claim is they were basically just handed over. It gets even more specific. The accuser points to this one piece of software, a public code repository over on GitHub called T5D, and says that was the tool used to get this internal access. For anyone investigating, that's like finding a potential digital smoking gun. So you're probably wondering, how in the world does something like this go on for years? Well, to answer that, we've got to turn our attention to the company that owns the platform, IMVU Inc. 1 star out of 5. That's the average customer rating for IMVU on the Better Business Bureau. I mean, a number like that, it screams that something is seriously wrong. And when you actually read the complaints, you see this disturbing pattern. This isn't just about a few bugs or glitches. You see story after story of stolen accounts, horrible security, and this is the really scary part, customer service that's sometimes accused of literally giving an account to a thief. And that's the real kicker here. This stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? It thrives in an environment where, if you believe years of these public complaints, the company itself just wasn't protecting its users. It's like they created the perfect hunting ground for these kinds of bad actors. So, all of this, it's all building up to a climax. And it comes down to one person's direct, documented, and frankly, brutal fight to expose this whole alleged enterprise. And the personal cost of this fight is just terrifying. In one exchange that was saved, the accuser is clearly in distress, saying they almost killed themselves over it. The response from the syndicate's alleged underboss? Too bad you didn't. The cruelty there is just, it's absolutely chilling. And then there's the intimidation. Instead of actually dealing with the evidence, the data breach, the misuse of company tools, the suspect just attacks the accuser's character, tries to paint them as unreliable, a drug user, anything to make the evidence go away. It's a classic tactic. Eventually, this whole thing goes federal. A formal complaint gets filed with the FBI, and the list of alleged crimes is just mind-blowing. We're talking a criminal enterprise running for a decade, wire fraud, a Ponzi scheme, even using a charity for money laundering, and of course, corporate cybercrime using internal tools. And all of this leaves us with one final massive question. In this new digital Wild West we all live in, if a company builds a world, but then doesn't police it, and just lets these bad actors run wild for years despite all the warnings, at what point does that stop being negligence and start looking more like complicity? That's the really tough line that law enforcement, and honestly, all of us, have to think about now.